Good afternoon, YouTube. JT Serenity Farms Prepping here with a New York State update on our unconstitutional lockdown. So, I'm going to read a little bit. Last Thursday, dictator wannabe Cuomo quietly, in an executive order, decided that New York's economy, only essential businesses will remain open, and he bumped back any new openings from May 15th to June 6th, unless regions of our state, which he has divided into 10, can meet 7 draconian criteria related to the bioweapon. You may open sooner. Okay, so Cuomo has urged that any reopening needs to happen slowly and methodically while he continues to try and extort a bailout of the $6 billion hole he's put us all in. That's all this is about. He fears that any missteps could cause the infection rate to soar. No, he doesn't. But what he really means is he fears the infection rate in New York City could soar, because that's all that he cares about. Cuomo still is pushing the lie that social distancing through the New York State on pause directive that he forced upon us all on March 22nd is solely responsible for flattening the curve. He believes that if he hadn't done anything, we would have seen the infection numbers keep going straight up. We reopen irresponsibly, and you'll see that infection number go straight up. No. Maybe in New York City, and who cares? Okay, they're the cause of any part of the rest of the state that has it anyway. So, there's 4 phases to reopening, but 7 criteria that you must meet. So each area will need to meet all 7 benchmarks for the state to reconsider reopening in 4 phases. Okay, the state would issue an executive order allowing that region to start the reopening process. Isn't that mighty white of them? Their criteria includes at least 14 days of decline in total net hospitalizations or under 15 new hospitalizations in a 3-day average. A region would also have to show a decline in hospital deaths and new hospital admissions and ensure it keeps 30% of its total capacity of beds available for potential outbreaks. It would also have to document that it has 90 days at least of PPE equipment on hand. You know, kind of like he did when he said he needed 30,000 ventilators, and when it was decided that we should go and investigate, all of a sudden they found the whole stockpile. Yeah. Okay, some of these regions, like the one where I live, have several small hospitals. 30% of your bed capacity to remain open is ridiculous. Having that amount of PPE stockpiled is also crazy when you can't get it. But we would also have to document that we have the capacity to conduct 30 tests for every 1,000 residents. That's not a city or a town or a county, it's a region. So in our particular region, excuse me, in the Adirondack Park, which is 6 million acres, We have several hospitals. I don't know what the total population is, but why isn't that number being uh, put out there for each particular county or city that has its own hospital instead of the entire region? So there's 7 hurdles each region needs to overcome to restart business. If all the conditions are met, then the plan has 4 phases of a reopening at 2-week intervals. So you got to meet all 7 of these unconstitutional orders. Then they might let you reopen in 4 phases, which is still going to take 2 months. So you see what he's doing. Okay? Phase 1, construction, manufacturing, wholesale supply chain, select retail, and curbside pickup. Phase 2, professional services, finance and insurance, retail, not quite sure because it doesn't give any explanation of what is retail. Administrative support, once again, no explanation. Real estate and rental leasing. Phase 3, restaurants, food service, hotel accommodations. Phase 4, arts, entertainment, recreation, education. The thing most people are missing the most, he's saving until last. Do you see what this is all about? So, some upstate regions, which is where I am, will be able to open before downstate ones because we've had 4 deaths in our area since March. 3 kind of confirmed. 1 is up in the air. The 3 that did die, 2 of them were elderly and very susceptible and had, according to some reports, traveled somewhere else where they very likely had got it. So, he's just holding the rest of the state hostage while he attempts to extort the president and the federal government to bail out New York City. This is all this is coming down to. Like every other libtard governor and mayor in the liberal states that are doing this, they've got some power. It's gone to their head, and they've lost control of themselves with this earning for power that they have. Okay? So phase 1, if you meet all 7, we just went through the phases. So, Buffalo, Rochester, New York City, Hudson Valley, they're not in this plan with us because they're nowhere near ready, according to Cuomo, to open because of all their deaths and supposedly more cases. So their latest scheme is New York City had 15 children get sick with bioweapon related illnesses. Well, how do you know that that's a bioweapon related illness? Did these 15 children test positive that they may have had a slight flu-like symptom, so now they're coming down with something else, and you're going to blame it on the beer virus, just like you're doing with every death in the state for the money? How much longer are the business owners of New York State gonna put up with this piece of shit dictating what we can do in areas that are virtually untouched by this bioweapon, but are being heavily touched by the hysteria, and we're being made to pay the price for the sins of New York City once again. So, to further, the number of deaths in New York reached 21,271 on Saturday. Okay? I just wish whenever they do these articles that when they say New York, they would divide and say New York City versus the rest of the state. Because out of the 21,200, we had 4 in 4 months. You know, that total is up 226 from the day before. We haven't even had a case in a couple weeks. 90% of the deaths out of your 21,000, so 18 to 19,000 of those, have been in New York City and the suburbs. Who's shocked by this? New York has tested more than 1.1 million residents and more than 333,000 tested positive. Now, once again, we know testing positive does not mean you're sick or even symptomatic. But it cranks up the numbers and the hysteria, and in Cuomo's mind, justifies him violating our constitutional rights. So, it says more. Golfing in New York. Carts will be allowed under these conditions. Cuomo said Saturday that regions of New York and neighboring states will all have their own time frame for reopening. Cuomo has organized 7 northeastern states on a reopening plan. Okay? And then it goes on to say that he is in regular communication with Connecticut, New Jersey, the communist country of Vermont, all the states that border us. He is dictating to them that if their states don't meet certain conditions, that he can't allow our state to reopen. Now, all the states that border New York are also governed by socialists or communists. So, there is a lot of New York City traffic from Connecticut and New Jersey. But that's New York City. So once again, the upstate is being penalized for the sins of the people in New York City, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Okay, Vermont, we do have a lot of traffic, but they don't have hardly any cases either. So then they throw in, it doesn't necessarily mean we need to do the same thing, but we're coordinating what we're doing, what they're doing, so that we're not counterproductive to anyone else. Okay? It's just those libtard governors combining forces to hold the residents of their state hostage to try and extort the federal government to bail them all out. Because libtard policies ruin every state they touch. So, 3 children dead in New York City from bioweapon-linked illness, he says, but doesn't elaborate on that because he doesn't know that it's true. He's using it for fear-mongering, excuse me, and to prolong what he's trying to do. So, if we don't get to open by June 6th, because all he did was push the May 15th date to June 6th. Still have to meet all his 7 criteria. Then you can go in phases from there. So we're a very small community. We don't have the funds that the big city does. We don't have the people. So getting that 30 days worth of PPE might be done if it's sent to us somehow. Leaving 30% of your bed space open is going to have these hospitals laying people off. 1/3 of your bed space. So basically you're still eliminating your elective surgeries and anything that happens where someone may just need to be hospitalized for a day or two. What are you going to do with those people? What happens if you are allowed to reopen because you've met all the criteria and then 1 week you have to use 1 or 2 extra hospital beds, or one of the other criteria, you slip under it for a couple days and then come back up? Does it make you go right back to step 1, do the 14-day thing, start all over again? As it is now, even if you meet everything and you're allowed to start your phases, the things people miss the most, that's still going to be 2 months. So June, July, it's still going to be August 6th before recreation, arts, entertainment are allowed to open. You see where this is all going. Not to mention all the food shortages that are already happening all across the nation. Rationing is going on. They're calling it limited to 2 per serving, but the word is rationing. Vegetables, fruits, they're not going to be delivered. We're having a snowstorm all day today. It's May 9th. Had I planted all my vegetables that are ready to be planted outside yesterday or the day before when it was 26, 28 degrees, I may have lost them all. Other farmers, same thing. If the month of May, normally we're all planted. If this continues like this until June, yes, most of our crops that are planted in the ground, you're looking at 90 to 100 days for a lot of them. You got July, you got August, you got September. That's pretty much already winter for us at the end of September, unless we have an Indian summer, which we didn't get last year. But falls here can be a little too brisk for a lot of the plants that are in the ground. That's going to cause more. So this doesn't appear to be getting any better for states under the thumb of socialist governors like we have. So if you're from New York or from any other state and you've got some thoughts, opinions, comments on what's happening in my state or your state, let me know. Like, share, subscribe, comment. Don't like, don't care. But for now, JT, signing off.